Welcome back to Making Sense. The program is designed to offer an analysis of news. In this week's edition, we are going to talk about the aftershock of the censure debate that took place last month. And in the censure debate, 10 cabinet ministers that are the main target. They sail through the vote of no confidence. And the result is Anutin Chanvirakul, the Minister of Public Health, he got the highest vote of confidence. But Education Minister Nathapol Teepsuwan got the lowest vote of confidence. And but the question is that we have seen some what we can call internal rifts, because there are some rebel MPs who vote against the resolution of the party or the whip.
Yes.
And we have seen some 4 MPs from the Move Forward party who vote for Phumjai Thai, Anutin and Saksayam. And we have seen 2 MPs from the Democrat party who abstain vote for all cabinet ministers, including their own leader, Jurin Raksana-Visit. And we have seen the Shining Star faction, 6 female MPs.
Dawrak faction, yes.
6 female MPs from the ruling Palang Pracharat party. And they abstain vote for Saksayam, who is the transport minister.
Yes, and he's also the Secretary General of the Phumjai Thai party.
And their move, somehow reportedly anger Palang Pracharat party leader, General Pravit Wongsuwan. And what does this internal rift mean? Will it lead to the sort of the reallocation of the entire government structure?
Well, I think on the surface it might look easy. But it is, as the saying goes, it is easier said than done. And this is, in this particular case, we're looking at, shaping up the entire cabinet seats, because this is, it's not going to be just a limited reshuffle. You can imagine, in the aftermath of the censure debate, we have seen a lot of political events which have taken place that might really, become a barometer of the government stability. I think one of the major events that we have witnessed in the past week is the conviction of the leaders of the dissolved protest movement called the People's Democratic Reform Committee. Now, that is the protest movement which led to the ouster of the Pheu Thai party-led government. That is the Yingluck led by the then Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra. And so the mass protest movement, the leaders of the mass protest movement were accused of, a range of charges, including insurrection, including, all the major charges.
Amnesty.
Yeah, and despite their protests having taken place, because you've got to recognize the fact that the movement started in October 2013 and carried on until May 2014, so months long. And the ruling, the criminal court ruling, didn't come until very recently, and so it had taken years. And it turns out the court has convicted the leaders of the movement, including 2 cabinet ministers of the current administration, right? Nathapol Teepsuwan, the education minister, and Putipong Punakan, right? He is the
Minister of the Digital Economy and Society.
Yes, quite long. Thank you very much for filling in. So these two ministers.
And Thawan Seniam, Deputy Transport Minister.
Thawan Seniam is the Democrat member, and he served as a Deputy Transport Minister, but he was also one of the core leaders of the PDRC protest movement. So if you're talking about the PDRC members who served in the cabinet, then we're talking about three, right? But if you're talking about the two former PDRC leaders who served in the cabinet under the ruling party, Palang Pracharat's quota, then it's two. It's Mr. Putipong and Mr. Natapon, right? So as we made a prediction in our previous edition, right, that Mr. Natapon's position, he was standing on quite a wobbly ground, right, prior to the conviction, right? But we didn't see it coming. But then came this criminal court ruling, and he was convicted of the charges related to the movement of the protest. So he's now he's entitled to appeal to appeal the ruling. But in the meantime, right, on that day that the court handed down the ruling, he and the other former core leaders of the movement, the protest movement, served. They're remanded in custody.
They spent 2 nights in detention.
In detention, but according to the law, right, the current law, if you serve even a single night in jail, one single minute, then you're immediately disqualified from holding public office, including the ministerial posts. Now, the ministerial posts, it means just quite clearly that the two ministers, Mr. Natapon and Mr. Putipong, were immediately lost their posts in the cabinet. So 2 gone, right? And going back to your question, is this going to be easy, or is it going to be difficult for the government to reshuffle this cabinet this time around? Well, it's not going to be easy for me. It's never easy for me, personally, looking from outside in. Cabinet minister, whether it doesn't matter how many people were involved in each cabinet. It's never easy, because even one person gets reshuffled, moving around, it means that it's going to be affecting at least one other cabinet post, and that's going to have a knock-on effect on the rest. So even one minister is going to have some quite an effect on the entire cabinet. And this time we're talking about two who are who held very important posts, the DES and education. And the fact remains that the education ministry is the most budget intensive ministries of all. Because each year it receives the lion's share of the the central government budget. So I think, to me, it's not going to be easy.
And there are many. At the moment, there are many speculation about the so-called candidates.
Yes.
Like Anusha Nakasai is one of them. There is also Thamanat Pongpao and Narumon. So there are many candidates at the moment.
Right.
So it's going to be a sort of the struggle for this position.
Yes. It's also as in previous cabinet reshuffles. There's a lot of jockeying for posts, definitely. You could see, quite a placid surface, but right down underneath, there's a lot going on, and it's very, very, unpredictable. But when I mean these two cabinet posts, it was the so-called allocation that was under the quota of the PDSC people, right? So we've got the PDRC being allocated the quota, you know, in the cabinet, and you know, the cabinet is tradition. This particular faction, if you can call it a faction, the PDSC faction, belongs to the government, but belong to the Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha. So General Prayut Chan-o-cha has a direct, is believed to have a direct, you know, influence or power over, you know, who gets picked to be the cabinet minister under this particular quota. So with this two, you know, gone, the question now is who will that power to choose or pick the cabinet remains, these two, you know, for these two posts, will that power remain in the hands of Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha? Because, well, don't forget that, you know, General Prayut Chan-o-cha already has a total authority over the pick of the finance minister. It has always been, you know, his choice. Nobody can interfere, right? And now the DES and the education portfolios, who will be the next occupants of these two posts? Will the Prime Minister have a say, you know, final say, or, you know, a total or final say over it? Because he has repeatedly said that it is his power, you know, I mean, the final say rests with him over the entire cabinet reshuffle. So what the parties, the coalition parties, not the coalition parties, the factions within the you know, the ruling Palang Pracharat, I mean, they can, all the other cabinet you know, the coalition parties, technically, according to the Prime Minister, all they can do is nominate candidates, and then he will, you know, decide which one is suited to the portfolios. If he has no problem with them, then they can just go through and you know, and become ministers. But if not, then he has that, you know, all-powerful, you know, authorities to object and to drop it or to recommend somebody else. So it is quite a clash. I think it's going to become quite a clash of power to choose the cabinet ministers.
Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones. It all comes back to that again.
Yeah.
So this is it's not something. It's not easy. It's not something that you can just, you know, anybody can decide, you know, easily. And you know, what works on the paper doesn't really work in reality. And this is one of those times when you have, you know, you got to muster the strength, the political strength, to say that, you know, if I were the Prime Minister and I was in this unenviable, you know, position or situation where I have to decide who gets picked to be the ministers, with all of these people, all eyes on me, immense pressure.
Yes.
You know, I might just, you know, I have this a trump card, you know, saying, if you cannot stop jockeying for post, if you cannot, you know, stop laying your hands on it, if you do not, you know, let me do my business of choosing the cabinet ministers, then I have this trump card of a, you know, parliament dissolution, right? And we'll all go back to square one. Would you like now to, you know, everyone to go to the polls?
So all the charter amendment efforts feel futile. We become futile.
This is not about the business of cabinet reshuffle per se alone, right? You've got a lot of things, you know, down the road, happening around, you know, down the road. We've got, you know, the charter amendments.
And other legislations.
Yes, the other, you know, key pieces of legislation, not to mention the possible derailment of the national vaccination program, which everybody is pinning their hopes on, and, you know, to get the country out of this economic and political miseries, right? So a lot of riding. There's a lot of riding on this cabinet. You know, on this cabinet reshuffle being resolved. You know, well, amicably, and at least the changes that will not disrupt the other political events and taking place.
And just getting back to the ruling by the criminal court of the PDRC, of the now defunct PDRC, it has, I mean, it's quite shocking because it is known that the PDRC members, I mean, are linked to the current government. I mean, they are the group that invite the military into politics. But at the moment they are being
sidelined.
Yes, being sidelined. And I mean, on the one hand, I mean, it reinforces the notion that the court upholds justice, and it can give a signal that the anti-government protester, what they are going to face is, I mean, I think it's also possible.
Well, it is, but when you think about it, I don't believe personally there's no such thing as power vacuum, because when somebody or gets removed, or they leave, or they lose their position, there will be other people filling in. But in this case, in this PDRC case, it's different because there are no other MPs, right, who directly labeled or clearly labeled as being the PDRC within the ruling party, the ruling Palang Pracharat party, who could fill that post. It's like there were only two people in this particular faction called the PDRC faction. So once these two people are out of sight, it seems that other factions would be too eager to just take the quota from them and make it their own and inherit that particular quota. But as far as the power, the negotiating power is concerned, I think the PDRC faction, particularly under Mr. Nattapon at the helm, has been credited with bringing in the election of at least some of the Bangkok MPs under the under the ruling Palang Pracharat's banner, in previous election. So there are quite a number of MPs elected in Bangkok, whose election was credited as being the success of the PDRC faction. So Mr. Nattapon actually had quite negotiating power in that sense, but within the party in that sense. But but it's, even the so-called PDRC linked MPs in Bangkok, I mean, it is now, their fate looks uncertain, because it's been reported, in the news that Mr. Thammanat, Captain Thammanat, might be interested in taking over this. Not taking over particularly, but he is going to have a lot of negotiating power from running or directing the Palang Pracharat party's election committee, right, in the next polls, because he is coming in, reportedly coming in and taking over the direction of the party's election in Bangkok. So from that was the job that belonged to Mr. Nattapon, but now Mr. Nattapon is no longer in the party, right? Mr. Captain Thammanat might be taking in, assuming that seat and taking it over. So you can imagine, the possibility of Captain Thammanat leading the Palang Pracharat to battle, in the next election, or even the governor, the Bangkok governor election, because Taya Tipsawan, right, the former deputy Bangkok governor and wife of Mr. Nathapol's wife, has also been convicted in the same PDRC case as her husband, and she's also been sent to jail but now out on bail.
Yeah.
So she's no longer qualified to run as governor of Bangkok. But there were reports earlier that she was contemplating this the possibility of running for the governorship. So husband is not has lost his job as cabinet minister, and she has lost the prospect of running as Bangkok governor in the near future. So really not a good day for the PDRC people. So I think it's going to be a tough road ahead.
Yes.
For then I think the entire cabinet, except for of course for the Phum Chai Thai party. But the Phum Chai Thai party is the darling of the coalition parties. I mean, the darling for a lot of MPs. I mean, because
they are right now the number of MPs around 61. I mean the second.
Yes, the second biggest
following
coalition party.
Pacharat.
Yes, it is the second biggest coalition party, and the reason why I said the party is the political darling is because a lot of defectors from both blocks, the government and the opposition, want a place in this party. In the latest development in the aftermath of the censure debate, we witnessed the so-called Cobra syndrome.
Rebels.
The Cobras are the
rebels MPs.
Yes. The so-called renegade, right, MPs who defied their party's stand and voted in a different direction from their party in the censure debate. So at least 4 of them we saw 4 Cobras, so-called Cobras in the Phum Chai Thai party, and they voted for the Phum Chai Thai ministers, Mr. Anutin, right? So of course there's no secret in this world, and when their names were revealed, I mean the Move Forward party that they belong to was furious because the Move Forward, being an opposition party, wouldn't want a single MP in its wing to vote for the government.
The way they punish is not to banish them from the party, because it will strategically increase the number of power for the government whip. So they just keep them in the party, but ban them from activities.
Yes, the law says that if a party expels a member, an MP, that party, that MP has the right to seek a new party to be a member within a specified
period of time. Like Sinuan in the past.
Yes, there's a similar case in the past. So if they want to expel these 4 people, these 4 MPs from the party, the Move Forward would lose them. Would most likely lose them to another party, and also who else would these MPs want to defect to than the Phum Chai Thai party. But not everybody, not every single one of those 4 MPs might want to move to the Phum Chai Thai party. But there are chances that at least some of them, or 1 or 2 of them, might want to do that. And it's only going to increase the MP tally of the Phum Chai Thai even further. It moved from being 50 to 53 in the past, right after the previous election, now to 61.
61.
So
overtake a Democrat.
in terms of overtaking the Democrats, and it's now what in the cabinet reshuffle, with almost 10 MPs increase. I mean, the question is, if I were Anutin Chandragul, who's the leader of the party, I would come to the coalition party meeting with one very important agenda to put on the table that said, I've got this many more MPs, under my wing now. Does it make sense that I'm going to still be allocated the same amount of cabinet seats? I will be directing my question to the ruling, Palang Pracharat party and ask, are you going to give me the same amount of parties? I don't think it makes sense. I've got this many people coming in. You've got to give me at least one more seat. It's not going to be any seat. It's got to be an important cabinet seat.
So we will have to wait and see at the end of this month or early April to see how the cabinet rejig will turn out.
Yes, we're going to see how it goes. So fingers crossed, because we were entering a very I call it a brittle phase of politics, right? Because we've got all these important developments coming up, and they all concur within the same period of time in the next 2 or 3 months. So we're going to need to see what happens, and let's hope that everything turns out okay. Not for all of us, but for the entire country. Okay. So that ends today's edition, and I hope you enjoyed the show as much as we did. So we'll see you next time in our next edition. So if you like us, please if you like us, you want to subscribe or even comment, please do. Your input is most welcome. So until next time, thank you very much.